Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, Bryce Simon joins me. We're going to break down all of the Week 6 takeaways that we've got from the Los Angeles Lakers being maybe contenders, like really, really contenders. Miami Heat being incredibly fun. Whatever Bryce has to bring to the table here, I tend not to know what Bryce has. It's amazing. I know what I have. It's going to be really fun. We're going to talk about 6 things, though, like we do every Sunday, that have interested us throughout the course of this week in the NBA. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What is this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you? My first takeaway is that you had one of the worst takes of your professional career over the weekend, because as much as I love Basketball Reference, and I love Basketball Reference, and I hate that I have to take this side of things, I adamantly do not agree with you that their update to putting the stuff on the side was a good move. Maybe I just don't like change. I want to be clear. I love Basketball Reference and will use it 50 times during our recording today, but not as much of a fan of the change as what it sounds like you are.
I like having the things on the side so that I can easily navigate to the different pages. Like game logs or splits or whatever I'm trying to look at. It makes it a little bit easier. Like it took me 4 days or so to really adjust, but now that I'm kind of there, I'm ready. Shout out the folks at Basketball Reference. They're the best.
I don't like, and maybe I'll eventually get used to it. I like things as full screen as possible. And so
yeah,
I find myself exiting out of it. I don't need it. And it's just like an extra button I have to click every time. Again, I want to be clear. I love Basketball Reference. I use it all the time. And then I don't know if you saw the tweet, but then also have you got into the diff conversation with the Cleveland Cavaliers broadcast? So you probably didn't know what I was talking about.
I have no idea what this is.
So the Cavaliers broadcast, it gives you the difference in score. It does the math for you. And so above the score, it says diff and either says plus whatever or minus whatever, how much ever the Cavs are up or down by. So it's kind of a point of conversation, I think, with people that watch. I find it very ridiculous that they feel the need.
Is this like a kids are just using AI now and thus can't do basic math thing?
So I absolutely love, because I wasn't going to go down. I'm a middle school teacher and people complain about how kids use AI and technology is the worst. I'm like, we are doing simple math for the audience. Like, what are we talking about? This is what we should have a war on making it too easy on people, not asking them to do the simple subtraction of the Cavs versus their opponent's score.
Look, I have no problem with this take. This is perfect. Yeah, look, I think it's pretty silly to do. The other thing I have no problem with is the Game Theory Substack. GameTheorySamV.substack.com, GameTheorySamV.substack.com. Bryce and I did a ton of stuff over the weekend, and I've got to tell you, got a couple more things coming here early in the week. GameTheorySamV.substack.com. We've got some really fun stuff coming for you this week. I have Caleb Wilson tape to break down. I've Bennett Sturts tape to break down. Nice. I kind of want to do the Nate Amon Kansas game to see if that looks way better than what the Houston game did. Really, really fun stuff coming over at the Substack. On top of the fact that I did Cam Boozer, Cam Carr, Tunde Yesufu, Bryce did Darius Acuff over the weekend. Trying to think what all we did. We did a ton of stuff.
Well, then there was NBA stuff before that. I had done the Maxey game. You had done the Derek Queen game. And I will say my plan at time of recording, just based like looking at schedule and what I have on my plate, I will probably take something from tonight's games on Sunday night and try to do some sort of breakdown on Monday, depending on how that action goes. I think I'll have time to do that sometime on Monday. So we'll hopefully have that along with all of the NBA draft content that you're going to be putting out as well.
Yeah, I think that's right. So there is no better time to subscribe to the Game Theory Substack than right now. GameTheorySamV.substack.com. Go over there, hit the subscribe button. There's no better way to support the show than by subscribing directly over there. And we give you guys a ton of really good film breakdown content for you to peruse and be able to kind of break down. Okay.
Real quick,
nice.
we had over 20 videos in the month of November. Like I'm not saying we can promise that, but I mean, if people just wonder, like, is $6 worth it? 20 plus videos, yours being like, 40 to an hour long, mine being very compact, but a lot of information in 10 minutes. That's a lot of content for $6 a month. Just want to throw that out there.
Right. Yeah. And look, I'll like tweet out or, put them on social, like little clips of them and things like that for everybody to see. You'll get like a little, snippet of what we're doing over there, but a ton of really in-depth breakdowns on players and just overall film content. So please go to the Game Theory Substack. I do not think you will regret it. You are absolutely getting your money's worth, I think, by going over there and hitting that subscribe button. Okay, Bryce, I do want to go first because I think that there's a really important conversation to be had.
Okay.
I kind of think the Lakers are a trade away from being genuinely real contenders right now. That's my real opinion on this. And I don't even think it has to be a really, truly significant move based off what we've seen in the last little while from this group. I just think that they look awesome. Like, you can go through all of the stuff that they're running, like Luka with LeBron now in the lineup next to Austin Reeves. It's really, really, really hard to be able to kind of guard them and deal with them. Like, you see on the second play of this Dallas game, like there was a nasty little like split in a ball screen from Luka, leads to this absolutely sick lob for LeBron where he's running baseline and gets behind PJ and Nembhard in the Dallas game. The fifth possession, Luka throws this like crazy, absurd look away past Ayton. They just create an immense number of mismatches on the offensive end is kind of the reality. Every single time that they come down the court, they are able to get some sort of really distinct, difficult mismatch. I think against everybody except for like Oklahoma City, probably. They are an incredibly hard guard right now. I don't really even know. I mean, I have ideas on how you manage them. You really have to win the minutes where that trio isn't out there, I think, is probably the answer here. They do a really good job of staggering, though. Like, JJ Redick has this thing down to a science, like very early, where LeBron comes out first, then like Reeves comes out, and then LeBron comes back in late in the first quarter. Luka plays the whole first quarter, then he comes out early in the second quarter, or at the beginning of the second quarter. Like, I don't know, man. They have a lot of playmaking on the court. They have a lot of shooting out there on the court. I love the way that they are using Ayton in ball screens, right? Like, that's absolutely true. And Ayton is rolling all the way to the rim and he's short rolling and things like that. But they're also using Ayton a decent amount in the dunker spot too, and using like guard to guard screen actions. And the benefit of that is that you reduce the impact that Ayton's like passing or inability to pass and take advantage of like 4-on-3 situations, can sometimes hinder an offense from time to time. But if you just go guard to guard and put Ayton in the dunker spot, you have that same sense of gravity where oftentimes if it's like, Austin Reeves setting a screen for Luka, Reeves is going to catch the ball in the middle of the court, and Ayton's man is probably going to have to help up at the end of the day as it is, because teams are constantly putting two on the ball against Luka Doncic. So I love the way that they've kind of organized the offense. I think it looks really, really strong. I think they just need like one more really high level defender, and hopefully that guy can shoot. They're very close, I think, to being a really, really difficult team. And just, real quick while we're talking here, as of time of recording, they're 14-4. They're 6th in offense. They're 16th in defense. Luka is averaging 35, 9, and 9.4. Austin Reeves is averaging 28.5, 6 rebounds, nearly 7 assists. LeBron is averaging 16 and a half, 5 rebounds, 8.3 assists. They just move the ball so quickly. They process it so well, that trio at the very least. And it's just a really hard team to guard at this point.
Yeah, over their last 5, they're third in the NBA in net rating behind only the Thunder and the Magic. And I mean, quite honestly, then it's 4 points above another team I think we're going to talk about that's been very good over the last 5 as well. I listen, Luka is incredible. And one thing that I want to highlight is it's really JJ is getting him off the ball looks. In the last 2 watches, they've done something creative. I think in this game against Dallas, they actually threw it to LeBron, and I call it the mid post. And then they ran like almost a pin in, like from the top of the key. It's not what I would think when I think pin down, because that happens more on the wing, on the side of the court. But Ayton's at the top of the key, Luka's at the free throw line, and Ayton just screens down and Luka pops in right. The defense is staring at LeBron because it's LeBron, and Luka gets an above the break 3-point attempt, and I think he knocked it down. And I think that's what JJ's good at is when you think of Doncic, you think of above the break 3-point shooting, not necessarily they're not running off the ball actions for him to get corner threes or something like that. He's still getting them where it seems like he's most comfortable. But I do, and we're going to talk about Austin Reeves and Ayton, and I think Rui deserves some love right now, Sam. We got to talk about their defense overall, which I have major concerns.
We'll talk about Rui.
Here's the thing, though. He's making shots, Sam. This dude is 55-49 from the field. When
none of my beef with Rui has anything to do with offense, so I think that's completely fair.
Agreed. And listen, we're going to talk about LeBron, and I have some things with LeBron defensively as well. But
totally,
at the very least, if people are going to bring up the Rui thing or want to trade Rui or whatever, you better replace him with the off-ball shot making that he's doing right now. But what I want to say is, I feel like so far in what it's been 4 games, LeBron has really played into this off-the-ball role. You mentioned the baseline cut and the lob pass. They ran a nice action where he was the screener and then he slipped out of it. Sam, LeBron is like the best off-ball baseline cutter, mover, lob threat, offensive rebounder that like, how much better can you get than that?
Yeah.
I mean, if I always equate it back to Dallas, and I don't mean to, but if Luka is this and Austin Reeves can at least be Kyrie offensively, which he's playing close to right now, if LeBron, like it was like PJ Washington was that role, and I love PJ, but LeBron is like supersized version of that on the offensive end at least. It's just, I don't know. I think if these guys will settle into this and continue to embrace it, that is scary offensively. Now, I have major concerns on the defensive end, and I'm sure we'll talk about it.
So, what do you think their defensive rating is right now with LeBron on the court?
118. 120.
126.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
126. So, I will also say this, though. When Luka is off the court, how many assists per 75 possessions do you think LeBron is averaging according to Data Baller?
Per 75 possessions? So that's 10, 12.
LeBron is averaging 17 assists per 75 possessions with Luka off the court.
Holy cow.
It's insane. Like the transition stuff, the hit heads, the passing, the playmaking, like they're fully leaning into LeBron, the passer playmaker when Luka is off the court, and it's really fun. And they're just letting Austin Reeves really be like the offensive, like driving, playmaking offensive, like scoring threat at the end of the day. And LeBron's just kind of making it easy. Luka with LeBron on the court, 11.3 assists per 75, 65.8 true shooting percentage versus a 61.9 true shooting percentage without him. So LeBron is making Luka's life easier. With Luka, LeBron has a 62.9 true shooting percentage. Without him, he has a 38.4 true shooting percentage, which is not ideal, but we're all dealing with small samples here. That will bounce just in the same way the assists will go down, right? Austin Reeves with LeBron on the court, 30.5 points per 75 possessions and 80 true shooting percentage. So LeBron is just making his life incredibly easy as well. The defense is ultimately the key here. What I do want to call out is I really do not like the Ayton Rui combo on defense. I don't think those two are attentive enough in help situations. Like at the 7-minute mark of the first quarter in the Dallas game, Rui just like completely blows a tag. Ayton commits too hard to the ball in a ball screen, and AD just like catches this incredibly easy lob dunk, right? They have a 120 defensive rating when the Rui Ayton combo is on the court. They have a 103 defensive rating when Ayton is on the court without Rui. They have a 110 defensive rating when Rui is on the court without Ayton. And the duo that I like the best is the Laravia Ayton combo. If you have Laravia and Ayton on the court with no Rui, that is a 100.7 defensive rating. I think that Laravia is big in the same way that Rui is. Probably not as good of a rebounder, I would guess. I don't necessarily know what the numbers say there, but just like kind of the way it feels on the court, it doesn't feel like he's quite as physical on the glass as what Rui is.
He actually rebounds more per 100 possessions. He's almost double on the offensive board, so it's not a crazy difference on the defensive end.
Yeah, and then particularly though, he's just way more like attention to he has way more attention to detail than what Rui does on the defensive end. So I like that. I think that there are real worlds where we can get into like, I think that the, Luka, Reeves, LeBron, Laravia, Ayton fivesome can be like a real playoff, 5-person lineup that works. Also, I think that in the moments where those guys aren't all out there, for as aggressive as Marcus Smart has been on defense when he's been out there, obviously he's dealing with this back injury right now, but for as aggressive as Smart has been, and for, I've actually really liked Kleba in some of those minutes that he's played recently, like his hand activity and just anticipation has been really good on defense, I think at least. I think they need one more body on defense that they can really trust, be it like the name that I've brought up the whole time is Andrew Wiggins, but like, we'll talk about the Miami Heat in a second here. I don't know that the Heat are going to move Wiggins is kind of my theory right now. Yeah. He's playing too well. They look great. Is there like a way to go and find a body that can give them some real defensive minutes and give them like a matchup guy in some respect outside of Marcus Smart in what he's giving them?
And I think that guy has to at least be able to knock down shots. And that's why Wiggins makes sense is I don't want to completely give up the offense. I guess he doesn't have to, but it would really be nice. I guess if it was a super, level defender, you could probably get away with it. And I think it's also fair to point out that part of this is also LeBron isn't good off the ball defensively either. Like they were doubling.
He's been a real mess so far.
Yeah,
honestly.
no, he has some of the athleticism to make recovery blocks and some of those things, but they were doubling Anthony Davis. And there was one time it was him and Rui on the weak side and they just give up, a wide open back door or whatever. I think Reeves and even Doncic are playing with energy right now. It's kind of funny. They're tied for second in the NBA in charges drawn. Those two seem to have a little bit of a fun, competitive, friendly banter, like just based off post. And I wrote in my notes, I was like, I wonder if now their competition is who can take the, most offensive fouls, like charges drawn, because I think they drew 3 or 4 total offensive fouls in that game against Dallas. I do think that they will give effort and do some of the little things and all of that. But ultimately, like Luka's averaging almost 2 steals per game, but we know neither of those guys is a lockdown defender at the point of attack. Rui's absolutely not that guy. LeBron's not that guy. Even Marcus Smart, Sam, like how many minutes in a playoff series are you going to get that level of defense from him? And then is the offense even going to hold up enough for you to do that? So I think I'm with you. I think there's a conversation of the center position versus this two-way wing. I think I would lean the two-way wing at this point. Ayton has given them
I would too.
Enough. Even the Jackson Hayes minutes are like, okay, if I can get 8 minutes in a game, 10 minutes in a game, just because he is kind of bouncy and a lob threat. And then you may just be able to go to some super small lineups against certain teams as well.
That's my idea too. Like you might be able to live in because you have like enough size across the perimeter now with the Laravia edition, like you might be able to go to a, LeBron, one of Rui or Laravia, Luca Reeves, like real defender, is the fifth man lineup that kind of works. Like it could work out reasonably well in some minutes. So look, it's hard to find names that are going to be available right now to me. I mean, look, I don't know if you kind of did any, but I have a couple of ideas at least.
Let's hear. I didn't. I mean, I saw one. Like everybody's selling on the Clippers right now, and I saw like a Chris Dunn one, which was like, well, like he would be awesome.
Yeah,
I don't
like Chris Dunn and Derek Jones Jr. were two ideas I had.
Yeah, I love it. I just don't know if that's where we're going to talk about them later. I don't know if that's where they're at yet. So,
Keon Ellis, like if they could find a way into those circumstances, that'd be amazing. But I'm skeptical that works. Like I think that they probably get outbid for Keon Ellis would be my guess at the end of the day, because like they're probably not giving up a first for him. Are they going to give up, like they don't have like the young player that the Kings might want? I don't know if the Kings are going to move him, by the way, either. Like we all think they should, but like will they is the real question. The name I came up with, obviously Herb Jones is another one that people bring up. Sure, if you can go get Herb Jones, sounds great, but I don't think he's available right now, A, and then B, I think the Lakers just get outbid by somebody for Herb Jones at the end of the day. The name I came up with was, I know that Haywood Highsmith is hurt right now. Is there any way that he comes back like by playoff time? Because he is quite good on defense. I know that, he's dealt with like this, swelling or whatever post surgery that happened about a month ago, and it feels like he's still a month away. Is there any way that like maybe he can get healthy by February or March and we can see what he looks like? Hopefully, maybe by January if he gets healthy and we can see him for a month before the trade deadline. But like Haywood Highsmith was kind of my idea, just because the Nets don't really have a reason to have him on the roster.
Yeah, sure. No, that name is Terrence Mann good enough defensively to be interesting here?
Yeah, I don't want the contract. I will bring up my Terrence Mann trade idea later.
Okay.
I have an idea there, but yeah, like I think Mann's been okay this year for what it's worth. Like he was kind of a mess last year in LA, correct, but this year it's actually been, or in Atlanta, I'm sorry, not in LA. This year it's been like a little bit better though, I think.
Yeah, I'm just trying to like peruse the teams that like Washington, anybody there, like offense, Pelicans, we already brought up. Nets, we just brought up the two names. I looked through the Pacers roster. I mean, they're not trading Nesmith.
No.
We already brought up the Clippers and the Kings guys. Charlotte, does Charlotte have somebody? I don't feel like
really
there's a defensive minded name on that team. I'm just going through the bottom of the
other thing though is that I think it has to be an expiring for the Lakers, because they probably want to be able to have cap space this summer in order to, arrange their roster with the Austin Reeves super low cap hold that they have, if they can retain him. I mean, obviously it looks like it's going to be a max for Austin Reeves, but can they figure out the way to make that work is going to be interesting. Yeah, I mean, like Josh Green was the name that I came up with, but like he has a year left on his deal, and I don't know that they'll want to take on that extra year. Is kind of my theory. I mean, like Ayo Dosunmu, like was a name that I kind of thought was interesting because they have the shooting to be able to make up for, some of his, shooting issues from time to time, where teams just don't really guard him as a shooter. He does knock them down. Like he's a little bit streaky, but he'll knock them down. Like right now he's at 47% from three, but he takes 3 of them per game, right? So teams will generally leave him a bit more open. And, last year he hit 32% from three. So it's an interesting conversation to have, but I think where I'm at is based off of what I've seen. I think they are very close here. Yeah. And look, like, I don't know if anybody's beaten Oklahoma City is the reality. Oklahoma City is 19-1 right now. They are completely dominant, and they just got Jalen Williams back, and their defense looked absolutely terrifying with Jalen Williams in the first game that he played. Like, all of that is true, and I don't No, like honestly, I'm not sure that there's another contender beyond Oklahoma City in the West right now. Like they look like the best team very clearly. But I think the Lakers are in that next group. And if they can find a deal for a really good defensively minded player, I think that there's a chance they could be at the top of that heap with Denver and Houston.
It's funny. One of mine was going to be, I was going to ask if you had to pick one team, if they just threw out the playoffs and said, you pick one team to beat the Thunder in the West, what would be your choice? And then if you took the Thunder out of the equation, who would be your pick right now to come out of the West in that scenario? So essentially, who is the team you think is best equipped to beat the Thunder in a series with no other context, just in a vacuum? And then if OKC's eliminated, who would be your favorite after that? And when I saw the Lakers, I was like, okay, we're going to talk about this a little bit anyway. So I threw it out. But as I say that, like, are the Lakers the answer to either of those questions? I don't think they're the answer to the first one. I don't think they're the first team you pick to beat the Thunder. I don't think.
Not right now.
Yeah.
I think Denver is still my top answer at this specific moment.
Yeah. I think it would be a fun conversation. But I can do that any week. So I'll save it for a week. I don't have one. It just, I don't know. It's something that's interesting to me. And the fact that I think the Lakers would at least be in the second conversation. I don't know that I believe that they could beat the Thunder right now, but if I took the Thunder out, do I think they could knock off the Nuggets in a series? I think I could talk myself into it. I don't think I would pick them, but do I think they could? Do I think they could beat the Rockets? You know what I mean? Like, so I think because of that, it means they're, like you just said, in this conversation. This is a long way to a short point of, I agree with you that they're in the conversation of the next tier.
All right. We got to shout out our friends over at Harry's. We've all been there before, shaving with razors that get dull too quickly. You don't realize it until it's too late, and you end up with an irritated neck despite having spent $30 just to get 8 refills for something that fails after 2 uses. Well, Harry's razors don't do that, and the Harry's Plus especially does not do that. Harry's Plus has an advanced pivoting system to reach every corner of your face. It has a refined blade tech for a closer, smoother shave, and it has a weighted metal handle for added comfort and control. With Harry's Plus, you can get a barbershop quality shave with German engineered blades. But the best part of Harry's is how affordable it is. Harry's owns their own world-class blade factory in Germany. There's no outsourcing. There's no middleman. And because they control the whole process from steel to shelf, they keep costs low. Harry's has launched their most advanced razor ever, and it's still cheaper than the Gillette Fusion 5. For a limited time, our listeners can get the Harry's Plus trial set for only $10 at harrys.com/game theory. This set includes the all-new Harry's Plus razor, 1 refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, and a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. Just head to harrys.com/game theory to claim this offer. And after you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. harrys.com/game theory. We're also going to shout out our friends over at Rula. Look, taking care of your mental health shouldn't be harder than taking care of your physical health. If you pull a muscle, you go see a doctor. But when it comes to finding the right therapist, suddenly it's frustrating. You've got long wait lists, or you're staring down huge out-of-pocket costs. That's usually what stops people from getting help. That's where Rula comes in, though. Rula makes therapy simple, affordable, and fast. They work with most major insurance plans, and the average session copay is just $15. That's basically the cost of lunch, but instead of a sandwich, you're investing in your own headspace. Rula connects you to over 15,000 licensed therapists and psychiatrists nationwide. They cut out the guesswork by matching you with someone based on your needs, preferences, and state requirements. So you're not wasting your time with the wrong fit. And the best part is that they don't break the bank. Rula is going to work with most insurance plans. Sessions can cost as little as $15 or be even $0 depending on your benefits. On top of that, Rula's not just a directory. They help you book appointments, stay on top of your schedule, and keep track of your progress, so you actually get somewhere with therapy. Whether it's therapy or medication management, Rula makes it simple to get the full scope of care you need. No time wasted navigating between platforms or offices. Thousands of guys have already used Rula to get the care they need. Don't keep putting it off. Go to rula.com/game theory and get started today. That's RULA.com/game theory. Take the first step, get connected, and take control of your mental health. Okay, Bryce, your first takeaway.
Yeah. So I wanted to give some love to maybe some individual players on good teams right now that may be flying a little bit under the radar, maybe some unsung quote unquote heroes for their team. So I picked 6 players, 4 teams in the top 6. I actually cheated a little bit. One of these guys' teams is actually 7th in their conference, but they're right there. It's just like, it's a very small win percentage thing, and this team's been very good. So I'm going to throw out some names, and then I'll kind of let you choose who we really touch on, who we don't, because I know a couple of these teams, at least one, we're going to talk about later as well. So some of the nominees, I guess, Sam, Duncan Robinson for the Detroit Pistons, Mamu and Jamal Shed for the Toronto Raptors, Davion Mitchell for the Miami Heat, Colin Gillespie for the Phoenix Suns, Aaron Holiday for the Houston Rockets. We talk about the Rockets all the time. I feel like we never talk about Aaron Holiday. And then probably the biggest name on the list, but a guy who I think doesn't always get noticed because we're always talking about Wemby and Castle and De'Aaron Fox and Dylan Harper's back and whatever, is Devin Vassell, who I think is having
Killer game yesterday.
Killer game the other day. Those are my names. Is there one of those that really stood out to you as I drop those? And then we'll kind of, we can bounce around the different names.
Yeah, to me, it's Gillespie.
Right? Yeah.
I think he has been awesome.
He was the motivation for this, Sam. I didn't want to give him his own little 20-minute thing here, but he was the motivation.
Over Colin Gillespie's last 9 games, he's averaging 17 points, 4 rebounds, 4.6 assists versus 2.3 turnovers, shooting 49% from 3, 49% from the field, 48% from 3 on 7 attempts per game, and shooting 100% from the line. So we're looking at a 49, 48, 100 shooting line over the last 9 games of his season. He has just been such a godsend for the Phoenix Suns. They have desperately needed point guard play. And this is a guy that we have brought up on the show for 2 years, wondering why teams didn't give him a guarantee when he was averaging a triple-double in the G League for the Denver Nuggets. Look, I get it. Like, we rag on the G League a decent amount. Like, the numbers there are not real for the most part. It's still hard to average a triple-double in the G League. Gillespie was just kind of taking souls at that level and was completely ridiculous. And he's 26 years old, obviously from Villanova. He looks like a very real long-term piece for the Phoenix Suns now. And I don't know, man, like 13 points and 5 assists over the course of the full season. I think he has been massive for them. And honestly, Villanova fans that listen to the show, like, they're going to laugh because of the whole attitude thing, but he kind of gives them an attitude.
Yeah.
Like he plays with a little bit of an attitude out there. And I think that's what Jordan Ott's trying to build, is that kind of aggressiveness with Dylan Brooks, and Gillespie plays with it a little bit. I love watching the Suns. They've been one of my real joys this year, and Gillespie is a huge reason why. I think he's been awesome.
Yeah, and some of those games were tough opponents. The recent game I watched was against Oklahoma City, where, listen, their point of attack defenders gave them a little bit of trouble because Oklahoma City can put Lou Dort on Devin Booker and then still have Cason Wallace guarding Colin Gillespie, and it's just an unfair thing that they have over any other team in the league. But he still dropped, I think, 24 points in that game, and the confidence throughout the entire game, a game they came back and made a real game. He just stayed confident throughout. He made big shots.
Bryce, his last 8 games, or the Suns' last 8 games, Atlanta, Portland, Minnesota, San Antonio, Houston, Sacramento, Oklahoma City, Denver.
Yep.
There's been no team that's played a harder run during that little window there. And Gillespie has kind of killed.
Yep. No, that's exactly right. And so he, defensively, there's some limitations, but he does these hustle things, that loose balls. He took a charge in that game against Oklahoma City. I'm with you. This was not a team, Sam, I thought was going to be enjoyable to watch play basketball. And right now I do. And the stat for their team overall that I at least wanted to drop quickly here, they're number one in the NBA in steals per game. They have 8 dudes, and this isn't counting Jalen Green, who's only played 2 games. They have 8 dudes averaging at least 1 steal per game. All of Booker, Brooks, Allen, Williams, Gillespie, O'Neal, and Ryan Dunn. Oh, and Jordan Goodwin are averaging at least a steal per game. They've been a lot of fun. Booker's been incredible. I think we'll have an interesting conversation with him on Thursday and where he may land in some of that stuff. But Colin Gillespie, I thought, deserves some love on today's episode.
Yeah, the Booker shooting thing has been kind of weird. Like, I don't totally know what to do with it yet because I don't know. He's been a really high-level playmaker this year, obviously, and has been tremendous in kind of leading them. And he gets so much defensive attention every single game. But also, I don't know. It doesn't feel like he's like kind of elevating quite as much as normal either. I'm interested to have that conversation for sure. Grayson Allen in the games he's played, he's averaging 18 points. Has been awesome. Dylan Brooks has obviously, done the Dylan Brooks thing where he's been frustrating and annoying for opponents, but he's averaging 21 points a game in the process as well. Mark Williams, playing 25 minutes a night, 13-9, continually productive, very long. Goodwin's another one. Like, I've long had a soft spot for Jordan Goodwin too. Really high level impact defender out there on the defense or, at the point of attack, really frustrating opponents just with his energy and athleticism. Also bring up Oso in the minutes that he plays. Yeah, sure. I just feel like their offense moves better. And that's always been the pitch with Oso. It's never been this is always going to like be his individual statistics that really stand out. But look, when Oso is on the court, they're a +8. When he is off the court, they are slightly negative this year. So Oso has been a really useful player for them in 400 minutes so far. So, we could build a whole team out of unsung heroes, I think, on the Phoenix Suns. That team has been incredibly fun. Is there somebody you want to target from your little runway there?
So I feel like we've done the Raptors thing. We've talked about Jamal Shed all the time. I did want to give Mamu a shout out. Mamu Kelishvili has been really, really good. I think Aaron Holiday is a guy that I just really appreciate for Houston. I feel like is a guy that Ime is going to lean into and trust. He defends and makes shots. I don't think we have to stay on it for a long time. Detroit is 16-4, Sam, and I don't know that people realize how important Duncan Robinson is to their success. And he's played in every single game. He's averaging 13 points, but he's shooting 40% on almost, just over 7.5 attempts. He gets targeted defensively. Like, it's a real issue. It's a real concern, all of that. But he is vital to their success. And even in the game on Saturday night where they pulled out a win against Miami, he found a way to make contributions defensively. He'll come in and tip a defensive rebound. He'll take a charge, like just little stuff like that. And even if it's just the shooting, the 3-point shooting has been massive. And he's played in every single game, which I brought up before the year was the Malik Beasley thing last year he was always available and Duncan Robinson had to be available. And so far he has been for a team that has one of the best records in the NBA right now.
Yeah. So glad you brought up that he's played every game for them this year. He's one of 2 guys along with Ron Holland that have played every single game for them. He is taking 1/4 of their 3-point attempts right now. Like, he's literally taking 25% of their 3-point attempts per game. It's very funny. He's been critical. Like, they absolutely have needed him. They absolutely help him as much as they can on defense. There are moments where he gets lost, but some of the stuff they've run, like where he comes in screens for Cade, just like these little ghost screens, slip screens, whatever you want to call them, those actions are incredibly difficult to guard given the way that teams are constantly putting 2 guys on the ball with Cade. Look, if you end up getting, Duncan on a switch on the backside, and then you have Duncan go up and set a screen, like in the huddle, you can tell Duncan's guy, hey, we're just going to switch the Cade Duncan ball screen. But if you get the switch on the backside and it's like a 4-man guarding Duncan, and your whole defensive strategy outside of Duncan is to put 2 on the ball against Cade, it's harder than you'd think, just, in terms of making it all work and making it all look functional and, cohesive and everything, to just be like, oh yeah, that's just an auto switch, right? That's easy in my brain whenever we're blitzing every other ball screen, but when it's Duncan, we're not blitzing. Like that's how defensive breakdowns happen. And that's why that's such a great counter for them to the Duran ball screen, right? So
Yep.
it's an awesome run so far for Duncan. I am glad you brought up Jamal Shed. We're going to talk about the Heat in a minute here. So, I don't know that I need to like really fully dive like all the way into the Heat. I will also just continue to note the Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins obviously, only played 9 games, but when Wiggins has played, he's been pretty useful for them, I think, as well. But Isaiah Joe, 13 points, 40% from 3. He's been very helpful for the Oklahoma City Thunder as well. There are so many of these guys that we don't really talk enough about, probably on some level, that have continued to make just an incredible impact. And Vassell's definitely the best player of these guys that we've talked about today. But, again, he is kind of like the 4th or 5th guy there in San Antonio right now. And, in the 18 games that he's played every single night for them. He posts, he's averaged 16 points. And then the game last night, where he drops 35 on Denver and is basically the driving force, and then getting a win without Victor Wembanyama against the Denver Nuggets. It was a huge game. It was an absolutely enormous game. And we probably don't talk enough about Julian Champagnie either.
No, San Antonio had a few guys. Harrison Barnes on off is actually negative, I think, which kind of surprised me, but I do find myself going like, he does exactly what they ask him to do. And I think it's really like, okay, what are my expectations of Harrison Barnes, which is knock down corner threes and do all of that. I do think it's important to give these guys some love. Where this originated from actually was our good friend Schlecht and Alex Spears over at the Athletic NBA pod. We're talking about how people don't talk about the Pelicans and Trey Murphy. And I was like, hey, we talk about Trey Murphy all the time over on the Game Theory podcast. It's like, who else do we need to make sure that we're talking about? And so we're going to talk about the teams at the bottom, at least on mine, but we're also going to talk about the Spurs at the end for my last one. And I'm like, I could see us going through that Spurs conversation and in the integration back of Wemby and Fox and all of these guys and somehow not talk about Devin Vassell. And I'm like, he's been too good for us not to mention his name.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go to my second takeaway here.
Yep.
Man, I think I've enjoyed watching the Miami Heat more than anybody else in the league this year. I just love their offense. This isn't like a new conversation, but I feel like we haven't had it much on the show this year. I love watching their offense. They play at a breakneck pace. They are constantly putting pressure on opposing teams. It's just the way that they try to make it work, right? I think they're the ultimate example of like good things happen to players and teams that are aggressive and don't let things come to them, right? Their whole thing is that they find the advantage, they find the space, they attack, they get paint touches, and then they score or they kick out. Like that's the whole goal. They're 13-7, and obviously they're winning with their defense. Like their defense is second in the league right now. They, have Bam Adebayo, who's been tremendous on that end. Davion Mitchell, a guy that you brought up in the previous, portion of the conversation, has been really aggressive at the point of attack. They're winning with defense. I want to be outside of the game against Detroit over the weekend where they gave up like 139, but like the offense is just really fun to watch. Like they play at this incredible breakneck speed, but they also play at a like breakneck decision-making process where it's like, okay, if I don't have an advantage, ball's getting swung. Okay, ball's gotten swung. Did I get a closeout? No. Do I have an advantage? No. Ball's getting swung. It's 0.5 basketball, like taken to the nth degree on some level where they're just like finding these open avenues. And then, you'll have guys like Ware cut to the rim. Then you have like Bam, who's embraced being this mismatch, kind of 4 or 5 hybrid scorer at times for them throughout the course of the season. I think their offense looks way better when Hawkes is out there, especially their second unit. In that Pistons game, particularly, like the whole game fell apart in the second unit. especially in the first half there. They need Hawkes with the second unit to be able to like make decisions quickly, break down defenders with his ability to dribble drive and everything like that and play in those isolation situations. But I think more than anything, what I want to talk about with them is the ingenious synergy between the guys that they have acquired and the scheme that they chose to run. So basically, they don't really have any guys who can't at least do two of dribble, pass, and shoot, right? Like Kalel Ware, I would argue, is maybe the closest to not being able to do two, but he's such a vertical threat and an offensive rebounding threat and is a real shooter, by the way, that you kind of have to guard a little bit out there to where he is at the 5 like a real difference maker, right? Davion Mitchell, very real dribble pass shoot. Bam Adebayo now is like dribble pass shoot. I know he's shooting 34% from 3. It's fallen off a little bit, but he's embraced taking 5 threes a game. And then he will attack and get into the mid range and like shoot over the top of Miles Turner, like what happened in the Milwaukee game earlier this week. Howell, obviously like a real dribble pass shoot guy. Andrew Wiggins, real dribble pass shoot abilities. Jaime Jaquez, real dribble pass shoot guy. Pele Larson, like very much a dribble pass shoot big or wing. Nikola Jovic, dribble pass shoot wing, and who's like 6'10" and can play at the 4. Simone Fontecchio, dribble pass shoot skills. Drew Smith, dribble pass shoot and defend, and then can do all those things, right? Like they've basically just gone out and acquired a whole lot of two-way dribble pass shoot like players that are like quote unquote role players, if you want to call them that. And Heroes, obviously, like, you know, since he's been healthy again and has played these 3 games, like he's averaging 26. Like this offense has been really good for him, regardless of if he wants more ball screens or not. I love the way that, you know, Pat Riley, Andy Ellisberg, Adam Simon, like that front office has gone out and just acquired players that fit exactly what they want to do within this scheme.
Well, I think that's such an important point because I think some people will say, well, why don't other teams do this? And my immediate answer would be because your star player won't play like this. I mean, I love Cade Cunningham, Sam. I truly do. I think he's incredible.
Literally, Tyler Hero literally brought this up. Like maybe we should run some more ball screens.
Yeah.
They're 13 and that was when they were 13-6, hadn't lost this game to the Pistons. Like they were rolling. Like I was just like, Tyler, no, you're perfect for this offense. Do not complain about this.
That's right. And yeah, what he's shooting 54, 50, you know, perfect from the free throw line. I watched it on Saturday night. And again, this isn't shade at Cade Cunningham. I think Cade Cunningham is incredible. He's all NBA. We'll have those conversations at the, you know, the end of this next week. But I don't think Cade Cunningham would necessarily love this offense where it's, hey, create an isolation. If you don't have it, okay, swing. And then I think what I love, and Cade's not the only guy. It's just like Trae Young wouldn't do it. Like there's a bunch of names, but they have the right personnel, to your point. So I wanted to double down on that. What I enjoy watching with this offense is the off-ball movement. So recently I really took a game and really tried to figure out like, what are they doing? And watching them push guys through in transition so then they could tack on a cleared outside. Watching guys settle in from one side of the dunker to the weak side on the dunker. So there's a driving lane, but they're able to catch and finish. Or they space you out 5 out. And then when a drive happens, they have a baseline cutter and then a guy filling that spot from the wing to the corner. So I would encourage people, if you can't visualize what I'm saying, the next time you watch Miami play, pause and rewind and watch how when somebody drives, somebody fills that spot. When somebody cuts, somebody fills that spot. It is very quote unquote simple, but it's not easy to execute.
Yeah.
Real quick, you have to have 5 guys that are aggressive at all times. Because if you have one guy where the ball sticks or he's not willing to take advantage of the advantage that's available, it all breaks down.
It's 100% right. And like last year, you know, the Noah LaRoche of this was interesting because obviously he was in Memphis last year. I don't know if he's an assistant or if he's just like an advisor for them, like whatever it is in Miami. But, you know, Noah LaRoche last year, he had like the Grizzlies kind of moving in like a wheel almost. the Heat have like slightly adjusted it to where it's more of like a fill, kind of like you
I
said,
agree.
where like you're refilling little areas. And look, like at the end of the day, what the result has been is they're essentially playing like isolation basketball at all times.
Yeah.
Is the idea, right? And instead of going like heavy ball screen, like I think that they are like dead last in ball screen usage in the league, and like they're like a over the last 10 years historically low rate, I think, of ball screens. I don't know what the exact number is, but like historically low rate of ball screens. They're just saying like, okay, we're going to get a guy on an empty side in a matchup that we like, and we're going to have him attack and try and get to the rim, because we think that NBA players now are skilled enough and NBA players are fast enough to be able to get paint touches in mismatch situations constantly. They're so good at emptying out one side of the court. And beyond that, I think a big key here is the pace, because they are so good at getting cross matches in transition and making it really difficult for opposing teams to get the matchups that they want on a possession by possession basis on defense. They just consistently put pressure on you and pressure on you and pressure on you until you pop. And it's really hard.
Yeah, I had a note from the Pistons game. I can't remember what the cross match was now, but I made note of that because they pushed so fast. They were getting a certain matchup in transition that they were able to attack. I will say one thing I think Spo and his staff has done a good job of, they will run screening actions after timeouts. So in the natural flow of the game, they're not going to do it. They're just going to push and push pace. But after timeout, coming out a quarter, half, whatever, you can almost kind of the way they go to zone in those situations defensively. Offensively, they're going to come out with some sort of ball screen or off ball screening action. And so they are still strategically using them in situations where they can really control it.
100% right. And like speaking of zone, I think they're like second in the league in zone usage right now on defense. Bam has obviously just been a monster when he's out on the court defensively. Just an absolute stud on that end. When he's on the court, they give up 110 points per 100 possessions, right? Like his versatility, his ability to switch, his intelligence in scramble situations. Just an awesome basketball player. Bam Adebayo. Like to me, like I understand if people want to try and make the Norman Powell all-star case, and if you want to try and make a case that there should be two from this team, I'll listen to it. But to me, like Bam is the one that's making this go because of his willingness to step out and shoot, his defensive ability when they are currently second in defense in the entire NBA right now. He's averaging 19 and 9 this year. Like I get that, like the percentages, I think he has like a true shooting percentage, like 3% below league average, but having a playmaking big that can also like make passing reads, it can do so many different things on top of being one of the 5 best defenders on planet Earth or whatever it is. It's just a huge win for he's the guy that makes it work on both ends, in my opinion.
This team is interesting, Sam, in an Eastern Conference where things are very much like, who knows? You have 2 high-level bucket getters that can get extremely hot, along with all of this other stuff that we've talked about in terms of some real defenders in Bam and Wiggins, a point of attack defender. And listen, real quick on Davion Mitchell, because I feel like we kind of went over him in mine, and then we haven't brought him up enough here. You brought him up being perfect for this because he can break down the defense, spray it out, all of that. He caused 3 turnovers on previously mentioned Cade Cunningham in clutch time on Saturday night at the point of attack, not jumping passing lanes or whatever, but maybe it was 2 at the point of attack, just took the ball from Cade. That dude really gets up in you defensively and has really carved out a nice role offensively that fits exactly what this team in particular wants to do on that end.
Yep, that's definitely right. I've really enjoyed them. I will note, like in the playoffs, I'm interested to see what this looks like in the playoffs. I'm not saying it won't work. I want to see like what it looks like in terms of like proof of concept. Their losses this year are the Magic, the Spurs, the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Cavs, the Knicks, and the Pistons. So like a bunch of the best teams in the league, right? And that's not to say they haven't beaten good teams either. Like they've beaten the Knicks twice. They have, beaten, I believe, they've beaten another good team. I can't remember. They beat the Cavs in that crazy like 140 to 138 game where I think they had 3 of their 4 guys as well in that game. So, like that. I'm interested to see what this looks like, I think, in the playoffs more than anything. But I love the scheme. and I'm really interested to watch them moving forward. Before we move on to Bryce's next takeaway, we're going to shout out Momentous. Creatine is not just for building muscle. It has become a daily essential for your strength, focus, recovery, aging, and cognitive performance. And now Momentous is making your daily creatine routine even easier with new creatine chews. These bite-sized lemon lime chews make consistency effortless. You just chew and you go. Look, I struggle with focus. I have ADHD, obviously, and the creatine thing is like pretty useful. It's pretty real. It's valuable, in my opinion, and it just helps that little bit. Momentous spent years testing until they created the first chewable that actually meets their standard, which is uncompromising science, meticulous sourcing, and real transparency. There's no artificial sweeteners, no fillers. It's just science-backed, clinically proven, and it is performance in a portable, craveable format. Whether you're training, working, or traveling, this is performance without pause, made to support your body and your brain every single day. Right now, Momentous is offering our listeners 35% off your first order with promo code GAME. That's GAME. Go to livemomentous, LIVEMOMENTOUS.com and use promo code GAME, GAME, for up to 35% off your first order. That's livemomentous.com, promo code GAME. Okay, Bryce, you're up with takeaway number 2.
All right. You know me, I never want to leave the bottom teams out of the Game Theory podcast. And so I wanted us to go through some of these teams at the bottom of the standing and not just say like, oh, they have a high draft pick. Obviously we'll have the draft show coming up tomorrow where we'll talk about a lot of guys that may be interesting for these teams. But I was like, what is going good for these teams right now? And so we don't have to spend a ton of time on each one. I actually don't think we probably need to, but maybe what is the thing that's impressed us the most? What have we maybe been surprised by or whatever? Some of these things we may have already talked about. So I did go off this a little bit. Like technically the Pacers and the Clippers, I think, should have been in this, but I wanted to add a couple of the other teams. So, but we are going to start with the Washington Wizards. What would be, to me, I think Alex Sarr is the biggest thing. We talked about him on a recent episode. And so I don't know that we have to spend a ton of time here. Is there anybody or anything other than Sarr that has you really positive about the Wizards so far?
Yeah, I think it's both Sarr and Keyshawn George, honestly. Sure. Like both of those guys, I think, have been huge. Keyshawn George is averaging 16 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and shooting 48, 44, 73. You know what I mean? Like, he's been massive this season for the Washington Wizards. I really like his potential to become like a real starting caliber player on a good team, not just on a, whatever the Wizards are right now team, but like he is a real guy to me on a good team. And we've talked about Sarr, for the month and a half already that the season's been going. Huge start to his season, and continues to, string together good games. He had a couple of like inefficient ones there for a minute, but, offensively, he's really brought it together and I think has been terrific.
Yeah, we've highlighted him a lot. My other thing there was, do you think CJ McCollum has shown enough to actually get something in a trade at the deadline?
I was trying to figure out a way to get him to the Clippers because they desperately need one more ball handler. I don't know if you can do it because he makes just like a little bit more than John Collins and Kobe Brown combined. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the McCollum trade market works out because of the high salary. The salary is the issue there to me.
All right, the New Orleans Pelicans. We've talked a lot about Derek Queen, so I wanted to shout out Jeremiah Fears and how he has played this year. Obviously, there's concerns defensively, even though he does cause disruption. The dude pressures the heck out of the paint, even though there may be some concerns about like the consistency of the finishing and some growth with that. But I mean, just how fast he is and his ability to get paint touches impresses me every game I watch. And just Sam, in general, the youth there of Jeremiah Fears, of Derek Queen, of the aforementioned Herb Jones and Trey Murphy III. If I'm a Pelicans fan, those guys at the very least have me a little bit excited for the future if everything else can come together in a year where everybody's going to talk about you because of the draft pick.
Yeah, and look, we've talked about the rookies pretty extensively on this show. I will bring up Trey Murphy. He had that really slow start to the year where, had the 7 against Boston, 7 against Denver, was not really all that good early on. Over the course of his last 11 games since he dropped 41 against San Antonio, Trey Murphy is averaging 23 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting 51, 38, 93. He has been genuinely awesome on offense over the course of the last 11 games. So the Pelicans are the one that I struggled with the most to find something interesting about. But I would say Trey Murphy over the last like 11 or so games has actually been what we expected Trey Murphy to be coming into the year.
Okay, the hardest one for me is the next one, which was the Brooklyn Nets. And so I'm interested to see where your positive was for the Nets, because the rookie class has been all over the place. Danny Wolf is finally starting to play. I think he had a big game Saturday night.
The Wolfman was pretty sick against Milwaukee.
Correct. What did you ultimately go with here?
Yeah, I went with, I mean, like, I know Nets fans are probably not going to be excited to hear about like the Michael Porter Jr., play that has been
this is where useful this year. This is where I laid it also. Trade value, right?
Yeah, like he's averaging 24 on 48, 36, 83, and I think has actually been fairly good this season. Like stepping into that number one role that we had some questions about with him entering the year. I will also just like, I've enjoyed the Tyrese Martin minutes. Like I've always kind of had a soft spot for Tyrese Martin. He brings like a real degree of toughness. Like I understand that he's like still early-ish in his NBA career, but he is like kind of an old head, like veteran presence, on a younger team, being that he's already like 26 years old, who I think is at least like tough and physical. And yes, he's, by NBA standards, not the most skilled guy in the world, but I do appreciate that he and Terrence Mann have at least brought like a sense of like physicality and like do things the right way, veteran presence to a team that pretty desperately needs it.
So I skipped over some teams here, so you may not have answers for these two. So I might be able to quickly give my answers on these two, and then you can give them for the two teams that are actually bottom 5 in the standings. I went with the Hornets and the Jazz just because I thought it kind of fit what I was going. So for Charlotte, I just said like Charles Lee and Con Knipple. I love the way that Charles Lee is utilizing Con Knipple. And then even a recent game I watched, the way they were using Brandon Miller, I just kind of find myself enjoying. Like, I don't know where they end up defensively and all of that. We've talked a lot about the Hornets over the last few months, going back to the draft. Love the draft class, giving them love for their actual play here into the season. We did the LaMelo Ball conversation, all of that. But I just think in general, I think I trust what they're trying to do on the offensive end and the way they're trying to utilize these guys.
I agree with that. The rookie class is like the clear standout here, even beyond Con, Sion James, Ryan Kalkbrenner. Those two guys have been really useful for them. Brandon Miller finally got loose over the weekend on Friday against Chicago. That was really good to see. He dropped like 26, 27, something like that. I would say that the rookie class, hopefully Brandon Miller is starting to kind of get rolling here a little bit. He had a terrible game on Saturday against Toronto, but is what it is. Toronto's playing really well right now. I would say it's the rookie class for me with Charlotte. Those guys look like they can play.
Okay. Last one, at least for me, that I did was I went with the Utah Jazz, and my answer was just the play of Keontae George right now.
100% to me. 100%.
Yeah. And listen, Sam, we will hold our own receipts. We will hold our hand up. You did it with Alex Sarr. I'll do it anytime it comes up.
Well, I'll do it with Keontae too.
Yeah. We both were a little bit skeptical of the high end ability of Keontae George. I think maybe I was a little bit more, but I wasn't uber confident in it. And he has been incredible so far this year.
I will say, like, the shooting is like coming down to earth a little bit still. 45 and 33 from field goal range and 3-point range. But the big thing that he's doing is he's like really attacking and getting paint touches and driving and getting foul attempts, right? Like he's averaging 7 free throw attempts per game. I would have never guessed that that's something Keontae George would do in the NBA. He has been outstanding getting to the line. He obviously makes his free throws too. He's at 90%. In the passing ability as well, like he's really embraced being a point guard, I think is the big answer here. Again, a guy that I didn't see a whole lot of that with at Baylor or at lower levels at the prep level. I always thought that like he had the ability to make passing reads, but kind of got himself into trouble a little bit. Was definitely a bit of a jump passer here and there. But Keontae this year has been awesome. I have like very few complaints. I think his ability to get paint touches has been huge for them.
So just to back up that, his free throw rate has grown every year of his NBA career, but took a massive jump this season. His 3-point attempt rate along with that has taken a massive jump down, which has led to a true shooting percentage of almost 60. His assist percentage is up a lot while his usage percentage is up. So he's taking on more usage while in a lot of ways being much more efficient than we've seen him, even while his 3-point percentage still isn't. I think he gets pegged as a shooter a lot, and like the 3-point percentage has never really played that out, but the 2-point percentage is way better. The free throw attempts and then the assist, even just the assist to turnover numbers. I thought he's been good. He's been good, especially offensively. And I thought it was worth shouting him out in, this part of it.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, that's all we've got for this one.
That's all the teams I had.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did that one. We're going to talk about another bottom 5 team.
So that's right now, we didn't need to go with them because I knew we were about to do a lot.
I'm pretty worried about the Clippers. Yeah. Like this whole time I've been kind of like, let's wait for Kawhi to get back. Let's wait for Kawhi to get into a rhythm. Let's let him kind of figure it out. It'll be fine. It'll all be good. Kawhi this weekend was awesome. He was so good. He averaged 34.5 points. He had 39 and 30 against Memphis and Dallas. He shot 56, 55, 100. He played in a back-to-back, and they lost both games against two teams that aren't going anywhere this year. All due respect to Memphis, who's been better recently. Been a good deal better recently since Zach Edey has come back. If I was to tell you that Kawhi Leonard is averaging 25 points on 51, 43, 98 shooting, and that James Harden is also like completely awesome on offense and is averaging 28, 9 assists, 6 rebounds on a true shooting percentage that is, let me check here, about league average. No. It's 8% above league average. I'm sorry. You would have said this team's probably really good.
Yep.
Right?
I would have 100%.
And they are terrible. Like they are truly not a good basketball team right now because the defense can't stop anybody. I think that the unit that has been the biggest difference for me across the entire NBA this season, both better and worse. The Clippers were a top 5 defense last year. They were really, really good on that end. I thought that they did a great job filtering guys into Zubats. They did a great job protecting the James Harden Zubats ball screen the teams tried to attack. They were incredible in help situations and scramble situations. They are 25th in the league right now, and I don't know how to fix it, Bryce. Like Derrick Jones Jr. is out, and he's going to be out, it seems like, for like a month from now. He would add real athleticism in a way that they really kind of desperately need. But they just feel not athletic enough. And like, I know that all of the numbers basically will tell you that John Collins, like when he's out there, it's a huge impact on the team. All 4 of Zubats, John Collins, Harden, and Kawhi, when they're on the court, the Clippers are actually a +4. What I would say though is that like, even though you're winning by a +4 with your 4 best players on the team, that's actually probably not a good sign.
I say that's probably not
only winning your minutes.
That's probably not enough, 4. Right?
Right. Without Collins, that trio is -12 somehow for 100 possessions. It's limited minutes, obviously, but like all of the things say that Collins has been useful for them. And when I watch the tape, I struggle with him on defense in this scheme. Like Cooper Flagg like bullied him to the rim regularly in that game against Dallas. Cooper had 35 in that game. He became the youngest player ever to drop 35 in a game. And it just felt like he was relentlessly finding a mismatch and attacking. And Jaren Jackson was just like blowing through his chest and getting easy buckets. And then, even scheme wise, like they were doing these crazy things. Like it's clear they're searching for answers. Like they were blitzing like Cam Spencer, Jock Lawndale ball screens and blitzing Contavious Caldwell Pope, Jock Lawndale ball screens. And then when it was like Vince Williams and Zach Edey, they were like going under and dropping on ball screens. So like there's no continuity to what they're trying to even do, it feels like to me, on ball screens and in defense. And then like the matchups were super weird. Like they had Nick Batum at the point of attack at one point is like a preferred matchup after a timeout on Vince Williams. They had Harden on Jaren Jackson. They had Chris Paul on Cedric Coward. And then they had, I think it was like Cam Christie on Santi Aldama and then Kobe Brown on Zach Edey. And like, look, like you have a bench unit out there on some level with Harden, right? It's going to get a little bit funky, but it was just strange the way that they would match up on teams as well. Like it's so clear that Ty Lue is like searching everywhere for answers right now. And I also think Kawhi has taken a big step back on defense this year. His off-ball defense has just not been very good. I feel like they help. He is like playing very, very conservatively and is getting hit with step backs pretty regularly. I think the off-ball defense has been a little bit less attentive than what we're usually accustomed to seeing from Kawhi. He's been like a bit more ball watchy as well. And they just don't feel as like this all comes down to team athleticism on some level to me. Like they don't feel as athletic when trying to help the Harden Zubats ball screen, for instance. Like it feels like they really struggle with that. And you know, the final note here that I will make is they have just real specific deficiencies when certain guys leave the court right now. Like when James Harden leaves the court, the offense completely falls apart. It does not matter if Kawhi is out there or not. When Harden's out there, they have a 120 offensive rating. When he is not on the court, they have a 97.4 offensive rating. In the 70 minutes with Kawhi without Harden, they still have just a 97 offensive rating. Like they have no answers on offense when Harden's out. And then when Zubats is out, opposing teams basically become the Houston Rockets on the offensive glass. They give up 38 or 37% of available missed shots as offensive rebounds. And you just can't, you can't win when you have that many specific deficiencies when a certain guy leaves the court, I think is their problem.
They're old. They look old. They're unathletic. You talked about it with Derrick Jones Jr. From the very first game I watched this year, I was like, oh, he just looks different than everybody else on that team. Just
looks like he's moving in fast motion.
It truly does. And he is a big time athlete, but he shouldn't look like that. And then there's just no chemistry continuity. You brought this up with the Zion Williamson conversation recently in terms of how can you have that chemistry, that continuity when one of your best players isn't playing. And at the end of the day, Sam, he's only played in half their games, even though he's put up the numbers in the games that he has played. I see the same thing defensively as you, where it's not just not being connected on offense. They don't look connected on defense. And none of these older, so we knew they were going to be old. You could look at the roster and know that. But my thought was they're old, but they have a lot of depth with that age. And some of these guys are still going to have it. Here's the problem. Bradley Beal's out for the year. Bogdanovich has only played 9 games. Brook Lopez, God love him, looks like he might be completely cooked at this point. Chris Paul, we did a whole segment in showing Chris Paul the love that he deserves. Not providing a whole, nowhere near what we saw last year.
Looks done, honestly.
So that's like 5 guys that, you know, whenever there was like 12 names you could throw out and be excited about. 5 of them legitimately just don't look like they can provide you real rotation minutes. And that's a real issue. And so it just,
and Bryce, like here's the biggest thing. They've just missed on all of their draft picks. Is the issue.
Yeah. Then
like
there's no,
all of these, like all of these kids, like you and I kind of like Jordan Miller a little bit, but like he's only played 3 games. Kobe Brown, you know, looks like a miss. Yannick Niederhauser, like can't play minutes yet on defense.
Hey, real quick. You know who can play minutes at the center position that was taken 4 picks after Yannick Conan Niederhauser?
Ryan Kalkbrenner.
There you go.
Yeah. That was always a crazy pick. That's something we brought up literally on draft night. We thought it was a crazy pick, and it continues to be one. Kobe Sanders has given them like okay minutes, like here and there. He's had a couple of good games, but outside of those couple of good games, like it hasn't been great, honestly, for Kobe. So, consistency with Kobe Sanders looks like an issue right now. I don't know, man. I think that they're in some real trouble here. They're going to have to make moves. Like, is the reality. They're going to have to make trades. I don't think there's like an internal answer here to all of these problems. So this is where we're going to have to get a little bit creative and have some fun. But I mean, do you have any thoughts on the way they've played before we try and, see if there's any way to make this tenable?
No, I mean, I think that's a lot of the things you said is what I've seen as well. I mean, as I peruse through my notes of every team, they're always a team that I have like the least amount of notes on because it's just like, they're not a fun watch. There's not a lot of juice. There's not the energy, along with the fact that I'm still amazed that James Harden gets done what he gets done. I still love Ivica Zubac and being in the right position and what he gets done. It's just, there's no continuity. There's no cohesiveness. And the thing is, we start blowing up the roster. That's not necessarily going to improve by making these trades, but I understand that seems like the only possible option here moving forward.
I think that's right. All right, like let's talk through it. So I was trying to figure out a way to get CJ McCollum there. It's hard, honestly. Like the thing that I think they need most is they need to find a second ball handler who can run the offense when Harden's out of the game and who can play a little bit with Harden. McCollum made a lot of sense to me, but he makes just like a little bit too much money where it becomes like just very difficult to construct a deal where, they're not trading away maybe somebody that they might like among the younger kids. Look, like the Clippers also just have like a real, kind of draft pick deficiency. But the one thing they do have is if Memphis finishes in the bottom 12 this year, they do have the Memphis Grizzlies second round pick this coming year. So like that is something where if they wanted to try to fix this, that is an asset they could try to use that could be valuable. The problem is that just like financially, John Collins and Kobe Brown for CJ McCollum doesn't work because I think that they are literally like $150,000 over the first apron then because they're hard capped at the first apron because they used their non-taxpayer to get Brook Lopez, I believe, right? So like, look, you could do Brook Lopez, I guess, and like throw him in the mix too. He is movable at the deadline. So you could do, John Collins and Brook Lopez for CJ McCollum. The Clippers would have to take on or the Wizards, I'm sorry, would have to take on like $5 million to do that. And they'd have to be willing to take on $5 million to get maybe the 40th overall pick or something from Memphis. That doesn't feel useful to me. Like I think that they might get a better offer than that for McCollum, maybe.
And you just got really small in the front court all of a sudden as well. Like for everything we said about Collins and Brook Lopez, I mean, who's eating up minutes at the big positions? Yeah.
I mean, you could do Batum too if you want to. Like that's another name that you could throw in. And that makes them only add 1.5 million, and Batum also has a team option. But I don't know, like this again, you become small. Like you're reliant at that point on like Kawhi and Derek Jones playing basically every game the rest of the year. And again, the Wizards will have to think that 42 or like, 40th or whatever it is where Memphis finishes is enough for CJ McCollum. And I don't know that they don't get a better offer than that, to be honest with you.
I mean, just looking at the books, here's where I think the breakdown is. They have some interesting contracts if teams wanted to get off long-term money because they have a few of these guys on club options and Bogdanovich, Lopez, and Batum. The issue is I assume the Clippers don't want to take anything on.
Correct.
Definitely past 26, 27. And my guess would be even past, like they want an expiring, but definitely not something past 26, 27. And so, I mean, what is that? 24, 30 million? for those three guys on expirings, Collins and expiring as well. But I don't think they're going to want to take on a long-term contract, right?
So here was my idea in that regard. So this is my favorite fake trade for them.
Okay.
And I think you'd probably have to sweeten it somehow, but nonetheless. Could we do Anthony Simons to the Clippers, John Collins to Brooklyn, and then Terrence Mann to Boston?
Okay.
So the idea here is that the Clippers get their ball handler that they need to hopefully be able to eat some minutes without James Harden out there and Simons.
Okay.
The Celtics get out of the tax with this deal.
Okay, so that's what I was asking. That Mann makes enough less than Simons for that to happen here? Okay.
Terrence Mann makes $12.2 million less than Anthony Simons, and that gets the Celtics out of the tax entirely, right? To do that, they have to take on 2 extra years of Terrence Mann. But I think that they'd probably be willing to look at that at the very least, because Mann also kind of fits them. He's from Boston as well. I wonder if that's a kind of combination that works a little bit.
Sure.
And then the Nets get off of the 2 extra years of Terrence Mann. They get an expiring in John Collins, and you basically replace vet for the rest of the year, and hope that the Terrence Mann. I mean, look, like the John Collins for Terrence Mann swap isn't going to make you win extra games. You're just basically getting off the money. You are taking on 11 million extra this season, but you're removing 31 million in future money from your books with the Mann contract. I wonder if that makes it work. I think Brooklyn would probably want a pick to do this at the end of the day. Maybe Boston can toss them a pick for getting them out of the tax. But to me, that kind of ticks a lot of those boxes for all 3 of those teams.
Yeah.
The Clippers get like a real ball handler that can hopefully help them. Simons hasn't been great this year, but maybe it's just, the situation in Boston for whatever reason. But it's still an expiring for the Clippers, so their future books aren't handled. The Nets get off of the Mann money, maybe get a 2nd round pick, and then the Celtics get out of the tax. Like that feels across the board like it ticks boxes for everybody right now.
No, I think it's interesting. To me, like I understand what we're doing here. I don't think it like moves the needle enough for me to feel great about where they're going to be, but just an infusion of the energy and the scoring punch that Simons could bring. I would understand. This one makes sense because it's like, hey, we're trying something and maybe it pops enough to like, they might as well try to go get in the play-in, right? And get, whatever. Yeah. And not give that pick as high to the Oklahoma City Thunder as what it's looking like right now. But the biggest thing to me, the reason this at least would make some sense is what you said about the contracts. And then for, the Nets, I would probably, for them, they're getting off money. Well, I don't think a whole lot of draft picks have to get moved around in this, right?
I wouldn't think so either.
Yeah, because if you're Boston, you get out of the tax. So even the extra years of a guy that can probably be in your rotation a little bit, even if, some seconds wherever, like however people want to hash out 2nd round picks, like great. Interesting. No, I like it.
The other idea I had was like, could you find a way to flip DeMar DeRozan in for Collins?
Yeah.
Like go bring DeRozan home to LA and, then you have like another guy who can score and kind of give you what you thought Beal was going to give you maybe. And Collins goes up to Sacramento. Sacramento like actually could probably use like a real 4-man. Sure. Honestly, their defense, doesn't get better, but look, you're trading DeMar, like it probably doesn't get worse, right?
Yeah.
It probably balances the roster a little bit if you just straight up do DeRozan for Collins. On top of that, like the Kings then would be removing DeRozan's $7 million or whatever he's guaranteed next year off of the books as well, which I'm sure that they would be happy with too. The Clippers would have to eat that or find a home for DeRozan. I'm sure that, that's why they might not be as interested in this is that there's the extra money for DeRozan next year that's non-guaranteed, or there's the partial guarantee, I'm sorry, for DeRozan next year. But those were the two that I found. Like, to me, it really is like they need to find an answer for when James Harden leaves the court, because here's the other thing. James Harden's playing 36 minutes a game this year and is 36 years old. Like, there's just a lot on his shoulders right now. If you could find a way to even reduce his minute load or potentially get him a couple of games where he could sit. Otherwise, I think you're really playing with fire with like the soft tissue injuries with James Harden, particularly.
Sure.
And if he misses 20 games, their season is dead at that point. And the problem with all of this that's hanging over everything, and we are not the first person to say this, Oklahoma City owns their pick this year. Yeah. Oklahoma City gets the Clippers pick this year. It is unprotected. It is theirs. They could easily end up with Darren Peterson or AJ DeBanza or Cam Boozer or Caleb Wilson or whoever if this goes poorly.
Yeah.
So if I'm the Clippers, I probably want to try and find like a solution that makes things a little bit better for me right now.
Yeah. I want to have that conversation at some point from the OKC perspective, but this is not the time for that.
Yeah. I'm worried about the Clippers though, is what I would say. Like, I think that there are real reasons to have concerns, and that's without even the, Kawhi aspiration thing hanging over all of this as well, and the Ty Lue thing hanging over all of this as well. Okay, Bryce, you're up with your final takeaway.
Yeah, so my question here, Sam, is which one of these teams is going to have the toughest reintegration of a star player? We have the Atlanta Hawks, who have been 10-5 with a 4.7 net rating without Trae Young over their last 15. We have the Orlando Magic, who have been 6-2 with a 10.4 net rating without Paolo Banchero, been top 10 in both offense and defense. And then the Spurs hasn't been as long up to this point. They've been 5-1 since Wembanyama went out. This is all before games on Sunday, by the way. But obviously then they Castle also left, but Fox, had come back, but not played a ton of games. Then Dylan Harper has since returned. I guess my question is there one of these that concerns you? Is there one of these that you think is seamless? We've talked a little bit about the Paolo thing in Orlando last week, but I do find this interesting in terms of three teams, two in the East, one in the West, that are in decent standing right now, that have found their groove without these guys. What does it look like in terms of putting these guys back into the puzzle?
The other one, you didn't bring up J-Dub either.
Sure.
In Oklahoma City.
That's because I have it's because I just know it's gonna work. Here's the difference to me is that Hawks roster is different than last year. The Magic roster is different because of Desmond Bane, and the Spurs roster, we haven't seen all of that together the same way we have seen the Thunder. There was somebody else that, even just LeBron, we've already seen LeBron back for 4 or 5 games, and we've talked about it and whatever. So I kept it to these three. But yes, that's fair as well.
Yeah. The Polo one is by far the most interesting, right? Because we do have some sample that the offense tends to look better when Polo is not in the game. I still am of the opinion that this is more of a coaching thing than a Paulo thing. Honestly, I think that when Paulo is in, they tend to defer to Paulo a little bit too much and let him go ISO ball and let him kind of do his thing as a mismatch creator, when I would just like them to be a little bit more intentional about their offense and run more sets and don't play Jazz as much and just kind of let them don't let them, kind of just get out in transition. They've been way better playing slower over the course of this season, right? We've just talked a lot about the Paulo one already. We did that for a good portion of the show last week, right? So I don't know that we need to dig into that. Where are you on the De'Aaron one? That's the most interesting thing to me, because we haven't talked a ton about De'Aaron yet in San Antonio.
I just think that's all going to work. We talk about times we're wrong or under on teams or whatever. You were the Spurs guy. I was wrong about San Antonio. They look awesome. Things are fitting together really well. I watched Dylan Harper the other night. I still continue to be impressed with his defense. I still continue to be impressed with his poise. He came off the bench, even, with Castle not in the lineup. We've mentioned all of the role players that deserve love on that team. And I think De'Aaron has fit in really nice so far. I don't think he's forcing the issue on the offensive end, but he's
playing off the ball like a little bit here and there.
But he's aggressive when he needs to be. And, that's always my worry with guys is, okay, I'm willing to fit in, but then you completely lose that aggression. That has not happened with De'Aaron Fox, in my opinion, at all so far, averaging 24 points on 48, 36, 85. I think it's looked really good. I don't see any reason that it doesn't continue to look good, even whenever they get all of these guys back fully healthy.
Yeah, with De'Aaron on the court, they have a 123 offensive rating, a 116 defensive rating, and that's considering the fact that he's only played with Victor Wembanyama for about a third of his minutes so far this year because Wemby's been out for a minute. I'm really interested to see how that continues to work. And look, like the other piece of it is, you can look at the Castle thing too, right? Like the Castle Wemby Fox combo has only played 72 minutes together. Now they're a +8 in those minutes, right? So it's worked really well. Then eventually we're going to reintegrate Dylan Harper, right? Like Dylan Harper has not played yet, I believe, with De'Aaron Fox.
No, they
right?
played. He played the other night.
Has he? Okay.
Yeah.
What game did I miss?
He just came back. Well, I watched the Nuggets game is the game I watched.
Why don't I remember Dylan in that game?
He only played 15 minutes, but he was good.
I was going to say, like I watched that game and I just don't remember Dylan in it.
He had 11 points, 3 assists, 3 steals in that game.
Did they play together in that game is the question.
Well, they may not have played together.
They played 3 minutes together. That's why. That's why my brain immediately didn't connect it. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, look, like how you integrate the trio of Harper, Castle, and Fox together is by far the most interesting thing to me. It should work. Like I don't think that I'm worried about it not working in any way, shape, or form, but it has been interesting to me how seamless the De'Aaron fit has felt. I know that some people had questions about that. I really didn't. I loved the potential fit of Fox, particularly with Wemby. I think that's going to work really, really well. So I'm excited to watch that group. And then I'm sorry, who was the last kind of treat? Who was the last group that you had?
Atlanta. I think Atlanta is a really fascinating one just because I was excited for this roster. And, I don't know that it got off to the start that I thought it was going to. It stayed a little bit up and down, but they're 12-8 overall. They've ended up 10-5 without Trae Young. We've seen Jalen Johnson be what I think you and I thought Jalen Johnson could be. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been awesome. Onyeka has been good. Not that Trae changes that a whole lot, but what does it look like? I think this one in Orlando are the two that I'm really interested to see. And I don't know that we've talked about this one as much. And so where do these guys fit in? Are they able to figure out their roles? Where does the defense go whenever you put Trae Young back on the floor for 28 to 32 minutes a night? I think this is one to watch as well once he does get back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still so thrown by the game earlier last week where they just got annihilated by Washington. It was full roster outside of Trae. They just got absolutely obliterated. Then they came back and beat.
That was the CJ game though, right?
Yeah, CJ had 46. Yeah, I think Sarr might have had close to 30 as well.
I watched that game. CJ I think Kispert got hot. So CJ started off, Kispert kept it going, and then CJ just never cooled down.
Yeah, I mean, and then they just come back and beat the Cavs with all 4 of their main guys. You know what I mean? Really up and down. It's just the Hawks are a bit of a roller coaster right now. Like you said, they lost those back-to-back against Detroit and San Antonio. Then they beat New Orleans and Charlotte, and then they lose by 1 million to Washington, and then they beat Cleveland. I'm trying to find the level with Atlanta right now. I feel like,
and to be clear, I think they need Trae. We've talked about this, or that I'm definitely not of the side that like you would need to replace Trey in some way. I think these guys are a little bit overtasked being the only on-ball guys, even though I think Jalen can do it some. I think Na can do it some. I'm not saying you need a primary guy to the level that Trey has usage. So I'm not saying that they don't need Trey. It just, they are definitely a team I'm very interested to see what happens when he gets back. How quickly is he able to reintegrate, and how quickly is everybody around him able to adjust? Because we know the gravity that Trey has. It's the same idea with Paolo. Like, they're not just going to go stand in the corner and, not touch the ball. So I think these are important things to watch as these guys come back into play because of where these teams are at in the standings in both conferences.
For what it's worth, Trey is still 2 weeks out.
I'd say he's a little bit, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. He's like 2 weeks out still. If you look at the numbers since Trey went out, right, they started incredibly well on defense, right? Without Trey, they're now back to like the middle of the pack on defense. They're a plus 4.7 net rating without Trey. So they're, right around a top 10-ish team in the league in the, how many games is this? 15 games that Trey has been out for. But at the same token, how much of this is, it's just, again, it's been a roller coaster is what I'm struggling with. I do think it's been more positive than negative over the course of it. Like, they are 10-5 without Trey Young in the lineup, but yeah, like the process, especially on offense in the half court, feels a bit complicated to me without Trey.
No, I agree with that for sure. Yep. I think they need that.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's all we got, Bryce.
Love it.
Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah.
If you watch Stranger Things yet, are you happy with your viewing list over the course of the holiday weekend?
I mean, literally it was hoops all day, every day. Took the kids to the gym a couple times, watched them essentially get in fist fights. We had a family game of 2-on-2 that I was not involved in because I'm smarter than that. My wife and what were the teams? So it was girls versus boys. My wife and Raleigh were on a team. Royce and Rowan has,
for people like your wife also played
college basketball.
Yeah, I was gonna say college basketball, college soccer.
Yeah. College basketball. 1,000-point scorer in high school, all that stuff. My oldest son has a broken arm right now, so he has a cast on. They're playing 2-on-2, boys versus girls. And the two younger ones are just, every time I look down, are on the ground wrestling. Raleigh's shoving him. He's tackling her, like tears. I'm surprised there wasn't any blood. It was a disaster. I just had my headphones in, listened to a podcast, shooting jumpers on the other end, and just let my wife take care of that. So Thanksgiving was good. Basketball was good, but gym time with the family is competitive. Let's say that.
My goodness. Yeah. This is why I don't have kids. Everything that you just explained is why I don't have kids. Okay, Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
At Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky. Got the Substack. If your favorite team plays Detroit, go check that out. Have notes on them as well. Game Theory Substack, where I hope to have something up on Monday from the NBA games on Sunday, along with everything else that we have over there. And then, of course, the podcast Game Theory with Sam Vecenie.
Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. I will have a mock draft later this week is what we've decided. We're going to update the mock following Feast Week is the plan here. I think that good friend of the program here, Johnny Hollinger, is going to have some thoughts because he was in Vegas doing some early scouting on some players here that were at the Players Era event. We had a bunch of things there. I will have a bunch of tape breakdowns as well coming up on the Game Theory Substack. Game Theory, samv.substack.com. No better place to support the show. Yeah, I mean, we will be back tomorrow with the NBA Draft Show, which will feature a whole lot of talk from Feast Week with the NBA Draft prospects. So keep it locked here. This was fun. I had a great time talking to Bryce about basketball as we do every week. We will be back tomorrow. Until next time, we'll talk soon.